What's up, fam? I'm Jazz, and this is Blackxecutive, a networking podcast for Black creative pros by Black creative pros, sharing inspirational stories, actionable advice, and giving away the game to succeed in your business and your career. Join the network where dreamers become doers and the aspiring become inspired. Listen and watch on blackxecutive.com. Let's get to it. What's up, Blackxecutive fam, and welcome back to another episode of Season 2 of Blackxecutive Podcast. I'm your host, Jazz, as usual, and today we're talking to Cody Kelly, corporate professional. Cody has his MBA in finance, and he is the host of It Is What It Is podcast. Welcome to the show, Cody.
Thank you, Jazz. I appreciate you allowing my light-skinned self to be on here. I know I've made it through the ranks. I'm on Blackxecutive. She's been an amazing guest on my show. I'm just so honored to be here, and any type of value I can provide, I'm just looking forward to it. Hopefully this doesn't get me fired. So looking forward to it. Whatever you got, come on, ask away.
I'm not going to be able to take this interview serious today. Oh my God. Okay. So, well, we're going to make sure we don't say anything that gets you fired. We're going to be good. We're going to be good. So, all right, Cody. So tell us a little bit about who you are. How did you get into business and finance? Because having a, MBA in finance is kind of a big deal and it's much needed.
Yeah. Who I am. So I've been really thinking hard about this. I'm like, who am I? But I'm simply put, or in its most simplistic kind of fashion, just a regular human being. Husband, I'm a minister, I'm a podcast host, I'm a corporate professional. Yes, I do have my MBA in finance, but I don't allow that to somehow separate me from the rest of humanity. I'm glad I was able to achieve that. I achieved it by the age of 27. The only reason I don't have my law degree is because I'm lazy. Not because I haven't gotten into law school. I mean, I took my LSATs. I got into law school before I got into grad school. So
humble brag.
I'm just being honest. But I'm a fitness enthusiast. I love bodybuilding. I love being in the gym. Anybody's ever followed me on CVMK33? Shout out to my little IG plug right there. But I really believe in health and just being a servant. I feel like my calling is to serve humanity, right? And just to try to make things a little bit better. So getting into my MBA in finance, what has it been like, or why? I should say, I guess we'll start with the why. I wanted to make myself more disciplined in that field. I wanted to educate myself, but I also wanted that kind of advantage. If you're in corporate America, it's very competitive. It's not the economy that our parents had, and it's definitely not the economy that our grandparents had.
Right.
You're competing not just amongst those in your same geographical radius. You're competing globally. Now that you have remote work, you're competing against somebody overseas in Switzerland, somebody in China. So you really have to be on your grind and present value. And then I know that the reality is, I'm Black. So I come in knowing that I have to be just, double as good. I have to be excellent just to go half as far. So that's really kind of how I got, into it. And really what I've utilized it for is to help organizations improve. Prior to the current position that I'm in, I was VP of Business Development for a company called Newground. Shout out to them. That's free advertisement. I don't know why I'm doing that, but it's service financial institutions, understanding demographic data and how that led to construction and design. So happy to be here, but yeah, that's kind of how I got into the MBA field.
Okay. So you're kind of in the business, I see, of careers in general. So you're currently in a role that creates products that service career professionals. What made you decide to go into the business of helping professionals develop their careers?
I think we all need help. One of the things that I struggled with out of undergrad is that I did not have a mentor. And something that I still struggle with, nobody really took me up under their wing. I think they thought that, well, he'll get it or he doesn't need it. And that could be the furthest thing from the truth. And even when you are smart, right? What if there is such a thing? Even when you do accomplish these degrees, navigating your career path is a difficult conversation to have because there's so many different avenues you could go down, right? And I really didn't have anybody to point me in the right direction. I felt like at a point I was just throwing darts at the wall and just trying to see if something, would stick. But I stumbled upon a few things, and I started to really understand my skill set. And really my skill set is connection, is likability, but it's also trust. And what I provide to the partners that I serve in organizations and to other professionals is that, their information to me is sacred. It's something that we build upon. It's something that, we can discuss at length, and we both can feed off each other's energy. So, I think that is to my advantage. And that's really kind of why I'm in the position and I'm doing what I'm doing right now.
Okay. Yeah, I feel that. Like in order for you, like you said at the beginning of the conversation, you believe that you are to be of service to people, and so that's definitely a way to do that in your everyday career. And people, I feel like that's hugely important, that people have that guidance along the path, because navigating your career can be very tricky, especially as a minority, especially as a woman, like all these other things you have to navigate around in addition to the regular challenges that everyone else has to deal with in their career.
It's easy to step on a landmine. Look, one of the things, if you work in corporate America, every day you're presented with an opportunity to step on a landmine. It's part of the culture. You have to learn who to email, who not to email, who to CC, who not to CC, who not to BC, and I didn't know any of this. There's a story, and I'm going to share it. When I was an intern, I won't say where, but I was trying to get in front of the leaders. I wanted a full-time position. I was doing great work. And I listened to the wrong advice. One person told me, hey, there's somebody that works over in diversity and inclusion, just kind of state your claim and mention, that you're a Black professional and all this other stuff. And I'm like, cool. So I sent it, but I guess I sent it to the wrong person, right, via email. And let's just say that did not go well, right? So one of the things that you realize is that skin folk aren't kinfolk. And everybody doesn't want you to succeed. Some people really want to see you fail, and that's a hard pill to swallow, but it's the truth. And you have to have your guards up, but at the same time, you have to have a willing ear and willing to kind of put yourself out there. So, I needed somebody I could talk to. One of the things that, I'm blessed to do is have these courageous conversations with amazing CEOs and executives like yourself, Jazz, who's going to hire me after the show. Hopefully I get a second interview. And this is how it just happens. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You know what? I do need someone to help with my books, because Lord knows I was not a math major. So I am a creative. But yeah, I feel that. Yeah, you're right. Every day is an opportunity, and I find myself being in meetings, and sometimes I'll say something, I'm like, that come off the way it was. I'm thinking about it like, well, I don't know if I get caught from HR. I mean, because I've been in HR before in some hot water, and it was over something I didn't even think was a big deal. It was like I was just talking a conversation, being Black, talking to Black folks, and then a non-Black folk heard me and was like, I was like, what are you talking to you? How you offended about something that wasn't even about you? You shouldn't even been in the room. Like, so, but you have to watch out for that stuff. Like, that's real. And it is. And unfortunately, there is a lot of that crab in the barrel mentality where it's like, there can only be one.
Right.
That's it. Like
the Highlander effect. Like, no, one Black person per Fortune 500 company. Right. And you got a lot of them out there. And you be like, man, I'm just trying to get on. But it's the truth. It's the truth.
Yeah. I know. And I know that's perpetuating from back in the days where there literally could only be one, because they was only going to hire one of us, back when they had to start integrating and whatnot. And that mentality has unfortunately just carried over through generations, but it's dying out. It is dying out. And hopefully some of them folks out there, if you listen to this podcast and you one of them folks, you know what, you can cut this off. I don't even need your stream. Like,
if you Samuel L. Jackson from Django, get off LinkedIn right now. You heard every other person that's Black in your mind.
You can get up out of here. No, for real, change your soul. If that's on your heart, change your soul for real. Do some soul searching. Do some shadow work. If you don't know what that is, Google it. Do some shadow work and figure out what that is. Or go to therapy. Go to therapy. Yeah. But so another thing I noticed is that you are big on entrepreneurship. Right. And so one thing that briefly kind of came up when I was on your show is the difference between, intrapreneurship and entrepreneurship. So I feel like you would be able to provide some good insight on that. So can you speak on that to those who may not be familiar with the term and how that differs for entrepreneurship?
So entrepreneurship is more like developing a specialized niche within an organization. That used to be like a buzzword like 7 years ago. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. Basically, I want to work for the company, but I'm a leader that has all these innovative ideas that we can implement. What you'll find out is that no matter how great your idea is, there's a chain of command and there's a process. And most of the time, only a small percentage, and probably 30% at best, of your idea will get implemented in some way, shape, or form. So that's entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, or coming from the I'm thinking back in grad school, the French word to bear risk, right? So it's literally, and for me, taking on the risk, or I would say the responsibility. Let's change the word. I realized that I cannot depend upon the system. The system was not designed for people of color, for minorities, for women, for members in the LGBTQ community. It was not designed for any other thing but white, and then that being male, right? So, so if you fall into any other category, you're kind of at a disadvantage. And me knowing that, I didn't want to put all my eggs in a basket. I didn't want to limit myself in growth. And I don't want to be subject to somebody else's evaluation of me, especially when you realize that those corporate evaluations, those HR evaluations are garbage. They're not true. If it was performance-based, there'd be a lot better evaluations and a lot more raises. So a lot of it is just opinionated. So I wanted to put myself in a position that I could receive income. I could create something that could live past me, that I could hand down, and hopefully one day move fully into. Yeah. And I think that's important because the reality is we're dealing with a dual threat. And I've said this, I actually had this conversation yesterday. Not only are we still dealing with the challenges of the past, so we're talking about systemic racism, we're talking about oppression, we're talking about misogyny. Now we're dealing with this new this nuance of threat to corporate citizenship, and that's robotic or automation, right? If I can get an app or a robot to do your job, why do I need you? So it's colorless, is genderless. You don't have to worry about this person taking days off. You don't have to worry about the app getting offended. The app doesn't need an HR consultant, right? So, and that's what's happening in all forms of business. It doesn't matter what it is, right? So me understanding that, I understand that I have to be willing to initiate the process. I have to create something so people can vibe off of. And the reality is, personality drives response. You can find similar items on Amazon as you do Walmart. There's a reason why you like Amazon. You can buy a cheeseburger from Five Guys, from Burger King, from McDonald's, but it's all about the experience that you need. And there's a great book I recommended for anybody, written by two MIT professionals, Pine and Gilmore. It's called The Experience Economy. I've read it like 5 or 6 times. And the whole thing is that they understand that what's going to differ from one company to the next is the overall experience that you provide. And that experience first starts with you. So I would say you have to be both. You're going to stay in corporate America. Entrepreneurship is something that you're going to have to really embed yourself in. But don't be afraid to look at other options or other opportunities. If you can create something that has some type of energy, some type of life behind it, that might be the thing going forward. Because if the company decides tomorrow, I want to downscale, COVID has impacted our revenue resources, let's cut the workforce by 30%, and they get rid of you, there's no harm, no foul. Knowing that should take the responsibility and say, I'm not going to allow you to dictate my fate. I'm going to control it to some aspect. So that's why I think entrepreneurship is so needed.
So many things that you touched on right there that I want to circle around. So first, the whole idea, you just, oh crap, you just said it. And it just I just had a thought, but it's gonna come back to me. The thought.
Gotcha.
But okay, yeah. So that's what I was gonna address first. This idea, like the powerful thing you said was knowing that I could get laid off pretty much.
Right.
I shouldn't allow that to happen. So I have been fired from a
Sure.
job.
Sure.
For the exact situation I was just talking about earlier, where somebody was listening to something that wasn't for them.
Mhm.
Anyway, but so at that time, that was hard for me because like that was my primary source of income. And to be real, to be vulnerable right now for my listeners, at this time I was going through a divorce. Lost
Sorry.
my job. Nah, it's cool. It was on my terms. It was
Yeah.
the best
He's
thing
like,
I
"It's cool.
did. It was good. I had to level up. It was
Right,
good. I
it's
had to
cool.
just start.
Yeah.
So but I was going through a divorce. I just decided like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm finna dip. I can't do this. So I was going through a divorce, then I lost my job, and then I was like trying to maintain my house and losing my house, and just kind of had to start, just had to reset. And at that time, me being a writer, I had to really hone in on my freelance skills. So I was like, I'm going to 1,000. At that time, like I was, as you know, I'm also into fitness. So like I started going hard with the personal training and the boot camps. And I was doing a lot of freelance work, and I was picking up stuff here or there, getting clients on my own, going through services to get clients, like all types of things to make sure that my kids were good.
Right.
But, it wasn't enough to equal that same salary. Now, had I been doing that beforehand as a side hustle and had been building that clientele, it would have been a lot smoother transition. So during that time, I got a whole lot more respect for what it is to be an entrepreneur. And I knew it's not a game to be played with. I think people talk about a lot of time with these inspirational quotes, but they haven't actually had to do it. Like where literally, if I don't get out and work today, I don't eat.
I don't either.
I
Yeah.
don't eat at all. Ain't no check coming in 2 weeks, dog. Like,
Mhm.
so having to like go through that for real for me, I was like, oh man, once I did finally like, secure a position and go back into corporate. Well, I went back into higher ed first, then eventually back into corporate. I was like, never again. And so now I'm always going through counting sources of income. I'm like, okay, that was getting low. Let me get another passive source going. Let me get another pass. I'm always, even if it's just a few hundred here, but this one bringing in a few thousand there, and I'm just gonna keep it going. Always something, so that if there's ever a situation, like again, you had one of those days where you step on a landmine.
Hello.
You come in and it's like you out of here, or not even that. You just everything going on with COVID. They're like, look, we gotta cut you. And you're able to be stable. So that's the first thing I wanted to say, because that's a very important no. I think we get too dependent and too comfortable in these jobs and think that like, oh, this is always going to be here. And I think that the best way that somebody put it for me once, and it really stuck with me, they said, when you have a job, you have one client. You piss off that one client, that's it. When you're an entrepreneur, you have several clients. You piss off one, oh well, you have others, you pick up another. Like you want to nourish their relationship, but that's not going to be the be all end all for your income. So yeah, hugely important point there. Second thing I want to address, you're talking about AI and automation.
Right.
Now I am a little on the pro AI automation side. Because I'm a big enthusiast of tech.
Right.
So I'm actually not as stressed about automation as some people are, because I feel like jobs are going to evolve to an extent. Like there will be a lot of people who will be let go. I understand that. And we will have to skill up. And so I'm very much pro us learning the skills that are needed to support this technology. I think we're still going to have blue collar workers. It's going to be a different type of blue collar. That's something that we haven't seen before. But I know automation is coming to all of us. There's like a robot. I forgot what the technology was that came out like last year sometime, and they like can write for you. I'm a writer. What did I do when you don't need me to think about users anymore? You can get this machine to like spit out all this data and then come up with the best words because they've already studied how people are going to respond. So I think about that too. But I'm also thinking about how other ways that I can provide services and goods outside of that, and how am I valuable outside of that too. But I think that's a good call out. Automation is coming. That wave is coming for everyone who's listening. If you haven't heard of it, research it. It is coming, and think about what that means for your roles. I think as of now, it's pretty much a given that it's going to happen, and you can find all types of articles on like what does that mean for the type of work that you do, and how you can pivot into a role that you think will be more supportive of that new economy. So good call outs. on
I
both of
appreciate
those.
it. And then invest. Something that
Yes.
I've done is, and I've really focused a lot of my portfolio on the tech sector. There's little things you can join, and I don't want to give anybody free advertising, but I mean, there's apps, and I'm talking about even before the initial public offering is listed. You can invest in oh my God, like different types of robotic surgical, operations that they're designing. There's they're trying to build this electric, guardrail system, and they're looking for investors. Now it gets costly because usually sometimes the starting price is, I think, like 1,500.
Yeah.
But if you could get in early, or even if you wait until the IPO, like there's a great stock, and I don't think this will get me in trouble with SEC, but NIO. So NIO is the
Been following that all week. Go ahead.
Chinese version of Tesla. So when I bought it a year ago, or is it 2 years ago? Anyway, so when I bought it, it was like $5 a share. Now it's like $62 a share. So that, if you accumulate that over time, you just prepare yourself. You just got to be honest. This is gonna happen. This shifting of economy, it's happening already. Fall in line and prepare for it. You'll come out on the other side looking better. So definitely.
Yes, I 100% agree. I've been researching that stock. Gonna get ready to buy some shares myself. Also, so I have a funny story on stock. So I dipped my toe into the stock market a few years back, and I was being so cautious. I got on one of those apps, we shall not name, and I bought 3 shares of a stock for $1.80. I was so afraid. I didn't even spend $20. And I've been kicking myself. I'm going to get to it. I didn't even spend $20 on the stock. I was so afraid. That stock is now in my portfolio at $80 a share. And I have 3. What if I had
100?
Yes. Yes.
Where would you be? Yes. Yeah. What, you wouldn't be talking to me.
I was afraid of that risk. And I like that you called out the French version of the entree. Is it entree? Which part of it is the French version?
It's the beginning part, the entree.
Okay, the pre. Yeah. Okay, that means risk. Yeah, and I feel that, especially like you just said, having to invest in being into the stock market. So with you being someone who has a degree in finance, what would you suggest for someone who's getting started in investing?
The first thing is, we're older. Something about getting into your 30s, you stop caring, right? Like, my wife talks about me. I don't have any swag. I know it looks cool right now, but my wife bought this. Like, I don't dress. I don't buy me expensive shoes. I have the same workout gear. You stop trying to live the Instagram life. You have to grow up at some point and say, look, I got to get myself together, scale back. And instead of looking at ways to increase your spending, look at ways to decrease your spending. Now, obviously, it's going to be different for everybody, depending on if you have children, if you need to be in certain school districts. So there's going to be a lot of factors that play. But if the more you can scale back, the better off you could be. The other thing is, risk is really not risk if you apply a strategy to it. So I have a story as well. Sprint last year was bought out. Was it Sprint? Yeah, it was bought out by T-Mobile. Sprint was like $5 a share. And I knew it was going to get bought out, but COVID hit. And I'm like, they're going to put this on. There's no way they're going to go through with this $1 billion acquisition during this time. So I just bought me, I want to say like 20 shares. I didn't spend that much money. Oh, no, I bought me 5 shares. I'm sorry. I spent $35. That's what I did. When they bought out, the stock split, T-Mobile actually paid me for the $35 spent. They paid me $200. Just think if I would have actually invested, and let's say if I spent 100, let's say if I doubled it or tripled it, like we're not talking about emptying out your savings. We're talking about what you would use if you went out. Yes. We're talking about what you would spend on a new outfit, so the thing about investing is reprioritizing your life. Stop, trying to live it up and just be an adult and say, no, I get it. I want to pop bottles too. I'm going to take that same money. I'm going to actually invest into something that's going to provide some type of wealth. I'm going to do my research. I'm going to grow up and be an adult about it. There's plenty of advice out there. You don't need the days of having like an FA to tell you how to invest are pretty much coming to an end. you can take matters into your own hands. So my advice is you have to grow up. You have to start at a very simplistic point. You scale it down. Then you have to say, what do I want to be, or where do I want to be 20, 30 years from now, when I'm no longer, at this stage of life, when I don't have any hair, so I don't have to worry about it falling out. But, when I'm at that point and everything's going great and things are falling out, right? Where do I want to be? Because I'm not going to be able to sustain this. And then you have to build towards that. So instead of being flued out, right? What the old girl say, being flued out, going to these exotic. If I see another one, I'm sorry, I got to say this. Black people, I'm talking to you directly. If you don't own a home, the word Mexico should not be in your vocabulary. I'm sorry.
And
I'm
Bali.
I'm not saying you can't go to exotic trips. I'm not saying you can't go to Jamaica. But I'm saying, if you living with your mama, if you on Section 8, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying take that same energy and do something that you need to do. Have a plan. That's all I'm saying. Because it's not a good look. I look on Facebook. I'm like, I don't believe this. This person, so that's all I'm saying. Just be responsible about it. Have a plan. You don't have to be a genius. Like, this stuff is simple, and invest in what you like. If you like iPhones, Apple's 128 a share, but their dividend yield is pretty good, so invest into things you actually like. Instead of buying the new J's, buy stock in Nike. Just switch it up.
Yes, I feel that so much. You have to there's echo. There we go. Okay. But yeah, you should definitely be investing in things instead of just taking. I mean, I know sometimes the idea behind that, I think it's like experiences. I want to have this experience, and I'm big on it. I say in my family all the time, experiences over materials, but you can have more and better experiences, and experiences where you don't have to penny pinch while you're out there. Because you're going to Mexico and you're trying to find all the deals, and you're trying to get all the cheap drinks and all the specials, because you really can't afford to be out there. If we're going to be real, you really don't need to be out there right now, because you probably had to push back some bills to be out there, and so you really need to take your ass home. You need to go home. If we being real, just saying. But yeah, I feel that we have to do better. We have to do better as a people, and like you said, trying to live up to that Instagram lifestyle and whatnot. Like, man, I'm at the crib again. That's what
COVID free. I'm chilling. I don't owe any. I tell people, like, that is the best feeling is when you get to Friday night and you don't have any bill collectors calling your phone.
Oh my goodness.
So I mean, you can stay what you want. And the cool thing is, when you do that, when you apply strategy, whatever you lose, you can apply that. It's accounted as a capital gains loss. So when you file your taxes, now you have this. You're reporting, hey, I lost money in this venture I sold. So all this is tracked, and it will come back to aid you. But when you go and you do the expensive trip, you're not getting any of that back. And you lost your car because you're 3 months behind in your payment. So something to think about.
Somebody is feeling attacked. Y'all feeling triggered right now. I want you to know I still love you. I still love you. Keep listening. I love you. We're gonna grow together. We all gonna grow together on Blackxecutive, okay? But I feel that. And definitely invest in things that you're interested in. Something you said I wanted to roll back to. You said, like, if I'm interested in Apple, right? Okay, so let's example. I done got flued out by some random dude.
Hey,
on the book, he flew me out.
Yeah,
he was a jerk. He didn't want to fly me back, so I had to spend my money to fly back. I'm broke. I heard this podcast. I'm ready to change my life. I'm like, I'm gonna do something different. My bills paid. I got $50 for the stock market. Apple is $1.28 a share, but I got all Apple devices and I want to invest. Is it worth buying a partial share? Be worth anything?
Yes, if like the goals say, if you have a long-term strategy, if you realize, okay, so I only have $50, but it's 128 a share. If I invest all 50, so the next time I get 50, so it'll take me 3 rounds basically, right? So I'll have 1 share. But here's the thing. The value of it will increase, and it's giving you income. And even though it might come to pennies on a dollar, that's increasing your value. If I had the $50, I'm looking at what are the best or the cheapest stocks with the highest dividend yield. There's a stock out right now. This bank, I believe, is in South Africa. SLBLY is the name on the stock exchange. $8 a share, but it has a very, very high dividend yield. So, I mean, you don't, and like another one, CR. This is actually my favorite. $9 a share, but they pay. And I have when I say few, I don't mean few and a few, but I have a lot of shares of CMRE. $9 a share. So you could buy 4 shares or 4.5 shares, you know. So I mean, it's just about building wealth. Yes, I'm admit you're not going to see the return on investment in a week, in a month. It might take you a year, and then because you have fractional shares and you look at it, you only gain 3 cents. But if you look at it, if you had $10,000 or if you had $1,000 and you put it in the savings account, they're only paying you 0.01% APY anyway. So I mean, and at the same time, you actually have a piece of ownership of that company. I don't think we realize what ownership really means, right? So you get to be able to call in, you get to be able to voice your concern about the company. They give you the contact information, you can vote on the board, you know. So like it's more than just this money. And I think sometimes we isolate ourselves to, I just want to be rich. There's more to it than just being rich. So take your $50, create a strategy, create a plan, and it will pay dividends.
Yes. I love that. I agree. I'm that type of investor too. I don't like to have partial shares as much as possible. I like to have full shares. So yeah, I take that $50, and I'm also like a long-term investor. So stuff that I invested in a few years back was like electric cars and green energy and all that stuff. I'm starting to see in my portfolio now that's rising. So I'll be doing the same. I'm always trying to look 5 or 10 years ahead and move from there. So, and we will definitely drop the things that have been named in the show notes, y'all. And if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be in the comments. So cool. I'm glad you dropped that advice. So kind of pivoting back into me being an entrepreneur and I have a business, and I don't know how to get started financially. I thought of an idea with my cousin. You know, it's like, okay, this business idea is going to work. We're going to flip t-shirts out the trunk of the car. Well, you know what? Let's bring it 2020 because that was about 10, 15 years ago.
We were still flipping t-shirts.
We were still flipping t-shirts. So let's say we're going to do ship on demand. We're going to do print on demand shirts. That's what they're doing now. And it's working. People are into it. I'm doing like Malcolm X and Harriet Tubman faces and all that stuff. And my copyright is good. What are 3 to 5 things that I need to do to set myself up financially?
Okay, so the first thing, if you have a product and it is generating revenue, that's a rarity. What you'll find out is that most people actually are probably over under. So they're investing a lot into the product and it's not generating revenue. So if you're coming out already in a positive, that's a great sign. It's not a future indicator because life is funny, things do flip. But that's a good sign. Take whatever revenue you've generated, incorporate yourself, get your federal, your FEIN number, getting, your LLC, make sure you're legit so that anything that you've gained and lost can be reported and you can have some type of tax accountability. That's number one. The second thing is once you've done that, you have to really sit down with a mentor. And I keep going back to this because your product is only going to go so far, right? So you need to examine who's my target audience, what's my brand. The thing about the t-shirt business is because I have friends that are in it and they're, putting out, the cool little Harriet Tubman things and whatnot. Is that going to be a viable thing going forward? Right? Like after February, after Black History Month, like in June, am I going to wear my kente cloth, right? When it's like 75, you know what I'm saying? So you got to prepare for the even flow of the business. Yeah. And I would say it's better to be disappointed early than to be disappointed late, So if you have a mentor and you're able to effectively walk through your business plan, where do I want to be? What processes do I need to implement? Where am I lacking? Because now you're going to have to reinvest. Website design. I know Wix.com and all this is cool, but you got to take it to the next level. You need a real professional. You got to be professional, right? Now you're dealing with shout out to Jazz consent forms, right? Like something I need to get on, right? You're dealing with articles that are written by lawyers. Like you're gonna have to really invest in your services And I think what we do is when we get that first bag or the first taste of it, and really we make our first 1,000, all of a sudden it's like, oh snap, I'm coming up, and now you're on Instagram like this. But the reality is, you need to take all that, throw it back into business. Like, you should not be playing with your revenue for the first 5 years. So the third thing, after you've invested in your processes, in your technology, the third thing is you have to look, and I do mean this in all seriousness. You have to ask the question, what can I acquire? Because you can only be great. You can only, like, my reach is this. Like, your reach will only be so great, no matter how you invest, no matter how great your product is. How you stay in business is through mergers and acquisitions. So if there's a like, for myself, if you're going to stay in the podcasting, your podcast gets to Joe Rogan level, the next step from that is creating your own network and getting somebody that's on the rise, because one day you'll be up here, the next day you'll be number 2, number 3, so you got to build on top of that. You got to partner with other organizations, partner with other influencers, and you start realizing that it's all about creating basically an entity and a parent corporation so that you'll be vertically integrated. So if you're not willing to play, and I know this is echoing the long-term game, your business is going to do one of two things. You're either going to get frustrated in the beginning and quit. You're going to get too caught up in the early success and then blow it. Or when it starts to really go and whatnot, and then you're creating and you have this income, you won't have any infrastructure. So when you die or when you phase out, the business will die with you. And when we talk about Black-owned businesses, and this is something I'm really, passionate, a lot of our businesses suffer is because we fall into one of these 3 categories. It even happens in church, right? Like, you might be a founding pastor, God is using you, the congregation grew, but you didn't recognize the next move that, you can't be pastor forever. Now you're 80 years old, still trying to preach, 90 years old. And, and then when it's time to evolve or transition, you want to give it to your son or, whoever, and they might not be the one, right? Yeah. But if you would have listened, if you would have had your eyes open, you would have saw and prepared yourself for this new phase. So you have to be honest with yourself where you are in the process. You have to map it out. And each, I think, phase of business will have its own challenges. But if you take those 3 things and really apply it, you'll be able to build that new Amazon, right? I mean, like, every time you look up, Amazon's acquiring another business. Why? Because they know, as great as it is to get an Amazon Prime box to your door, there's going to be another company out there that will be able to create some type of memorable experience that when you open your door, you get a free massage, and like, it'll be something bigger and grander. The only way they're going to be as competitive, they have to expand. You have to look to expand. So,
wow, that is so important, and I don't think those 3 points you made were really pivotal, because I don't think as small business owners you think about that. You don't really think about that. You don't think about an exit strategy. You don't think about expansion. You don't think about mergers. You just think like, I really enjoy making coffee cups, and I'm just going to keep making coffee cups until I'm rich. So, and it doesn't always happen that way. Most of the time, it doesn't happen that way. So, yeah, those are all good points to mention. I think something that really stuck with me was, one of the companies that I worked for is really big on mergers and acquisitions, and constantly acquiring businesses. Like, I mean, because it's a huge portfolio of businesses, and they're constantly just acquiring things. And, it made me rethink about business myself, because I'm like, man, like, how do you even go about getting to the point where you're like, I'm so big and I'm so expansive that now I need to start, pretty much purchasing their competitors and squashing them out so that they don't exist. Like, it's like, we'll literally buy you out, and then we'll just pull everything that you have off of the internet, and you just don't exist anymore. And I just thought that was such a ruthless strategy when I first experienced that. But I'm like, that's business.
It is. It is. Think about this. So, Jazz, let's take Blackxecutive. Blackxecutive grows up. Bam! It's the hottest thing out there, bigger than the Breakfast Club. You got Charlamagne the God, Angela Yee, the Envy trying to get on here. why not? Wow, who are they contract? I think they're contracted with iHeart.
Now.
Yeah, iHeart now. Yeah. So, but then the conversation needs to be, how can I get you from iHeart? What is it going to cost? And you'd be surprised, transactions aren't always cash based. Most transactions are stock. Let's say we're not public and we're not doing stock. We can do percentages. Like there's so many different ways. But the problem is for us, we don't think about our competitor enough in a way of partnering, right? Like we're so busy competing that we don't know how to partner. I have my niche. My niche is only going to be so much. I'm only going to be good at so many things, right? You have your niche. If we put all this together, that's how you build this big entity. And that's how you're able to be multi-streamed and just have this conglomerate, is because you've combined and created this powerhouse. But for us, is we're great, and then we do this thing, and then we get bought out, and then you get like Beats, right? Where if Dr. Dre would have said, look, I need to partner with the, Black tech design, even though they offer me $1 billion, I could be $1 trillion by doing this. And it's not a thing against what is right or wrong, but it's just, you have to think long-term. So. Yeah.
I feel that that's real. And it's funny because every time I talk to a fellow podcaster, a lot of us are like, well, I'm like, so what's your goal? What do you want to do? Like, I want my own media company. I'm like, all of us want our own media company. We all Black. Yep. We all want to help Black folk. Maybe we need to get together.
You got this spot. You can be the new BET. Be an artist. BET is falling off. It's not the same. They don't have AJ and Free anymore. So we called them up and like, hey, look, we need you back on 106 and Park.
Not AJ and Free, but but for real though, that was like the last time that they were in their prime though. When AJ and Free 106 and Park, BET was it. Who was running home from school or whatever, work or whatever you had going on to make sure that you caught the countdown, like especially and people were gonna be talking about it, the performances, and they lost all of that. I think it's a lot of lessons that can be learned from BET and where they are now from where they were.
Yeah,
for sure. Okay, so kind of flipping that around a little bit as far as having an umbrella. So what about the business owners who I'll say this, a lot of times I'm one of them, but a lot of guests on this show, we do a lot of everything. I do this, I have podcasts, I have music, and I have a hustle, and I sell t-shirts, and and your attention is focused on multiple things. And one strategy is to, of course, form an LLC and then have DBAs going all over the place. Right. What do you say to that for business owners who have their hands in multiple pots and kind of want to do some of everything? Do you think that they should focus on one thing? They should continue to focus on the several things and kind of forming that larger umbrella company on their own? What are your thoughts?
What are you good at versus what are you passionate about? Because the two are different. What is actually making money versus what could possibly make money? I think all that has to be considered. I wouldn't say stop, but let's say you're a great podcaster, you're a good author, you're an okay comedian, and you're a terrible fitness instructor. You probably shouldn't have all your focus on the DBA as a fitness instructor, or or the authorship. I'm not saying to stop writing books or whatnot, but what I am saying is you have to make at least one thing really, really viable before you start shifting your focus. I'm not saying just quit, right? But if you start, you'll exhaust yourself. One of the things, and I totally understand, and we're guilty of it. Like, when I'm done podcasting, then I'm a film editor. Then I'm in Wondershare Film more like this. I'm looking up new graphics, like, I got to pay for this, and so like there's this, and then there's what follows, right? And then then I'm and then I'm administrative assistant because I'm calling people to get guests, so right? But one of the things that we have to be careful about is burnout. Burnout is real. I hit it. I think I was exhausted last year come November. I I just didn't want to do it. Like I couldn't, for whatever reason, I couldn't think of new content. You know, I was recycling some of the episodes that I've done. I didn't know how to bring the fire anymore, right? So I took a couple weeks off to really kind of get my mind around what I want to cover for 2021. You know, I'm already, you know, we're in February. We're pretty much solidly booked through February, but I'm looking at March and, you know, have some dates, and, you know, I'm doing something, doing pre-recorded things now, but I had to really focus on what drives all of this. And when I figured out that it really was the podcast itself, that's what I need to put all my focus on until I'm able to partner with somebody. And this goes back when I'm able to partner with somebody who can match me and where I'm weak. And when they can match me and where I'm weak, I don't have to be that anymore. You know, I can still benefit, you know, off of somebody else's strength, but I don't have to be the one pulling the weight anymore. But it's hard because very few of us, and we're talking about ACT folk, right? Understand the power of partnership, want to partner, and then are going to be committed to the partnership. I know a lot of people, and I'm going to just be honest. Yeah, you know, I support you, man. Oh, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it. Didn't show up. I know a bunch of, yeah, I'm going to subscribe. I'm going to subscribe. No, it was crazy because it doesn't even cost you anything. Just go to YouTube and press okay, right? Like, you know, like, but like one of my episodes that really got to me, and I still deal with this, and I've been trying to figure out where was the disconnect. I did a episode on colorism, right? And really kind of exploring this light, dark skin thing. Just to me, this always been just terrible, but it's something that impacts our community. And I got 17,000 live views.
Wow.
I only gained 5 followers. You know, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, wait a minute. I was bragging. I'm like, bro, I'm about to blow up. You know, I'm thinking like I'm about to go viral. Everybody, you know, just hit me up like, man, I love that episode. But when I looked at the conversion rate, I was like, I only got 5 followers. And what you realize is that attention doesn't mean progress. What you realize is that just because people might be tuning in, they're not watching it to support you. They're watching it to copy you or to use it again. And you start, you can feel it without knowing it, right? So the hardest thing, and for any business owner, is having another business professional that I can partner with, that I actually trust, and I know is going to be committed to the long-term value. Did you see the, matter of fact, great turn point. Did you see the movie, what is it called? Fatal with Michael Ealy?
I don't think so.
Watch it. But when you watch it, you're going to be like, I know exactly what I'm talking about. Basically, I'm about to ruin it. His business partner was sleeping with his wife. So I'm about to read it. If you haven't seen it, I'm sorry. I ruined it for you. But that's the whole thing. It's like, it's the whole premise of the movie, and the whole premise of all this is, who do I trust going forward? And without that trust, it's hard to navigate it. So
wow, now I gotta watch that. How you gonna cheat on Michael Ealy? I've been crushing on him since barbershop days. Like,
Ricky,
it's Michael Ealy. He got a little crazy
Ricky with the gun.
but yeah, that's crazy. Wow.
In my head, I think I'm Michael Ealy. Like, that's my spirit man. Like, when I see myself in the mirror, I see Michael Ealy. But you know, that's my spirit man. So
oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Oh my god. But yeah, that's real. All of that is real. Like, knowing who to trust. And then I really like that call out. Attention doesn't mean that they're necessarily there to support you. They could be there to copy you. And I feel like, I know for me as a creator, and I'm sure a lot of other creators and creatives listening probably think this too. It took a lot for me to go public with a lot of my art because of that. Because I'm like, people copy. And I'm just so bent on being a unique, special little snowflake. You know, and so I'm like, people are gonna copy my ideas and whatnot. And then I remember seeing a quote, and it was like, in business, of course people are gonna copy. When you have a good idea and it sells, they're going to copy. You pivot to the next, and you pivot to the next, and you keep pivoting, and you keep innovating, and you keep being the leader because they're gonna keep copying. And I think that's something that's hard to come to terms with, you know, that, you know, people are really just trying to be nosy and see what you're doing so they can make a knockoff. They just want to knock off. That's crazy. Okay, so you already touched on like a lot of like pitfalls and stuff that you see all the time. Is there anything in particular that you see as like something that really stands out that is a common mistake that professionals make with their finances?
Um, I think a common mistake is thinking that you made it. You know, everybody's experience growing up is different.
Mhm.
You know, even growing up like I did, you know, I was fortunate. My mother and my father, my parents moved us out of the south side of Chicago when I was really young, and basically because, you know, it became a war zone, you know, and they felt like I would have a better chance surviving and being productive in life out in the suburbs. So that has impacted me in more ways than one. But I think there's this number in our head, whatever that number is, that we've made it. And what you find out is that even when you get there, you don't, you know. So my wife and I have this conversation. Like I remember when I became VP, and I was like, you know, I'm like, babe, I'm the youngest VP. I'm the first VP of color at this organization. You know, look at my check. You know, like I'm at this time, I'm just like brag. And what you realize is that you don't. It's not as much as you think,
Mhm.
right? And the problem is when we get to that six-figure life, uh,
Mhm.
we start living like we're on reality TV.
Mhm.
We start just, you know, going here, going there, you know, expensive dinners. And, you know, it's really not that much money, to be honest. One of the
Yeah,
things when you
real
are,
for real.
it you know, it's true. When you are fortunate and you've been blessed to ascend to a certain level of income,
Mhm.
instead of seeing what you can purchase, see what you can get rid of. Right. So
Mm.
I know that's hard, you know, because you start thinking like, oh no, you know, now I don't have to eat ramen noodles anymore, you know, and like
Mm.
all that is going through your mind. But that's probably the biggest mistake is you think like this is gonna carry you, and then you make
Mhm.
the second mistake that the organization really likes you like that. You
Yeah.
know, they don't. I'm telling you, like
Oh.
they don't love you like that. So
Mm.
you know, you have to prepare for that. You have to prepare for that type of shift. And I think if
Mhm.
you're just honest with yourself, you'll avoid that mistake. But I get it. We're all guilty of it, and I've done it. So
Yeah, that's real. That's real. And I'm glad you called that out. Making six figures is not what we all thought it was when we were kids,
no.
and teenage. Even when you're young, I mean, even I think, especially when you're depending on where you came from, and you're used to minimum wage jobs, and you're used to people, you know, who just go and get a job that's making $15 an hour, and that's good money, you know.
Mhm.
So like six figures is like, but then like you said, you get there and it's like and it's a lot to keep it because you're in a role in which you make that kind of money. So you
Mhm.
have to constantly meet those expectations. You got to get over those landmines every day. You got
Mhm.
to come to terms with the fact that now you are a higher cost expense to the company. So don't mess up because they
Don't
can
mess
save
up.
that money and they can bring in someone younger than you and pay them less. So,
Mhm.
you know, like, and that's real. And people don't think about that. Like, and I know if you don't make six figures, you're probably like, what they talking about some bullshit. But
Right, right.
you probably like
They're
all that.
like, I'm just trying to get to 15 an
Right.
hour.
Right.
Nah.
I'm trying to get to 15. But you know, I feel you on that. But it has its own challenges. And I hate to be cliche, but more money, more problems, you
Yeah.
know, and especially if you don't manage it. And often two times in our community, too many times we make more money and we accumulate more expenses. And then
Yep.
we turn around and look like I'm still broke. Yeah, cause
Mhm.
you added more bills.
Mhm.
You went out, you had that car that you already had paid off, and you was good with that car, it would cause you no problems, or it had one problem, and you went and just got rid of the car. Now you got a car note that's ridiculous, you know. And you doing all this stuff. You were good in your house. Now you want to sell your house and get a more expensive house, even though you know
Yep.
your kids only got a couple more years in the house. Like we got to make better financial decisions. Like you guys to do better with it. And I think for me, there was a book I read, The Millionaire Next Door,
Mhm.
and if you haven't read it, definitely recommend reading it. But he just talks about all the people who make six figures and versus those who don't. And
Right.
you would be surprised the amount of attorneys and doctors who make all of this money who are not millionaires because they don't know how to manage their money. And they go out and they do all this other stuff to keep up that appearance. An attorney has to drive a certain type of car. An attorney has to take their clients to certain restaurants, and they can't even keep up with that money to be millionaires. But you have Joe Blow here, who's a teacher, and his wife is a stay-at-home mom, and he been making $50,000 his whole career, and he a millionaire.
Yep.
He could manage his money.
Mm-hmm. And going to Mexico on his own accord. Hey, it's true. I'm telling you, you get to that level and you get that corporate American Express card, and like you be like, man, I don't ever have to pay for lunch again. Like something, I don't even know what that is. Something triggers in your mind, but you really have to sit down and be like, bro, you haven't made it yet. Pretend like you're back at phase one and you're an intern and stay in that mindset. You'll be fine.
Yeah, for real. Never feel like you made, especially when you work with somebody else. Like we talked about earlier. At any moment, it could be a wrap. It could be a wrap. And they will. Yes, they will. They will literally have you train your replacement. I just watched that happen. Just watch somebody train their replacement and they out of there. It's ruthless. It's raw here. It's real in these streets, in these corporate streets. Okay, Cody. So we're gonna get a wrap up, and you named the book. You said The Experience Economy. Do you have any other reads that you would recommend for people who are trying to better understand the financial side of business, or just business, period?
Oh, any other reads? Anything by Jeb Blunt? He's kind of like a sales guru, but he's really like more of a personality coach. I think he's a good author. I have so many other books. Something that I would recommend. I'm trying to think. I'm actually looking through my library in my head because I'm right now. I'm kind of in my like political readings right now. So, from an organizational standpoint, oh my gosh,
you could drop those too. Any book.
I mean, you have. My friend Derek, and Derek, I told you about the Storehouse Principle. I have not read it yet. That is the next book. I do like.
Can you repeat that one more time? The what principle?
The Storehouse Principle, and it's really about starting small and kind of just being a good steward over your resources. I finished up 8 Years of Tragedy by Ta-Nehisi Coates, but that's not a book for organizations. I would really say what you need for kind of that organizational development is weird because you want to take it out of the academic field. Find an author that, I mean, because there's so many. Find an author that isn't selling just philosophy. I think what all leaders need is a coach, somebody that they can see themselves and see the weaknesses of their strategy. With a lot of organizational books, where there's organizational development, I mean, like I have so many grad books on just, but it's all ethereal. It's not, to me, real life application. Even if you take books like one of my favorite reads last year was Becoming Michelle, but she talks about being Black, like at Princeton, and being Black at, the law firm that she was at. And even, like those books will help you navigate the landmines. So it's not just about finding a great organizational development book as it is, how do I find somebody that I can relate to? I need to see myself. And there's plenty of books that are transparent. Tavis Smiley's old book, The Covenant, that was a bestseller at the time. There's plenty of books that are very transparent that will give you a mirror into your own life, right? And I think you take lessons from that and you'll really start to understand just how to go forward. So that would be my recommendation. Me personally, I read a lot of stuff just because, like, politics is a desire of mine. I don't know if I'm ever going to run from office, but it's always been something, in my heart, right? So any type of book I can get on a president or some type of historian book, like that's what I kind of like entrench myself in. So I would say find that thing that really speaks to you and then take the lessons from it. And then when you start seeing your flaws, autocorrect fast. Because if you don't, it's gonna destroy you. So
I respect that so much that I didn't even think about that as like a strategy to read in books, but I know one of the most impactful books that I recently read is called Thick, and I've talked about it on the show before. But the reason why it was so impactful for me personally is because I saw myself. She's a young Black professor, writer, and she's like trying to make her way through the world of academia, and dealing with all of that. And that was me for so long because I taught at the collegiate setting for 7 years. This is like the first full year since I haven't been teaching. And that's why it was so impactful to me. It's because I saw myself in that book, and the struggles that she went through and her flaws, they were reflected back to me. And so, I think that's really important. You have to find books and material that can help you autocorrect for sure.
You need it, or else you'll be hosting a podcast like myself. So you need it.
Hey, podcast can be really insightful, and then you feel like you're talking to a friend. I hope y'all feel like y'all having a conversation with us right now. All right. So, how do you think your work impacts the Black community?
So, I know what I'm doing here on the South Side of Chicago. I know the urban initiatives that we have going through our local ministry. I know what I've done on a corporate level. I talked about the 7-point plan with the organization that I'm in. Was the first D&I plan that the organization has ever had. So I think that has been an aid. What I do and I don't talk about is my mentoring. I like spending one-on-one time with young men that need guidance. I don't make a big fuss about it, nor do I try to put that on my resume. Even though I've done things, I've done. FCHN is a not-for-profit here in Inglewood that really focuses on the poverty of Inglewood. But that to me, the mentorship is the best thing when you're able to talk to somebody, and especially if somebody's who has been imprisoned, and they can share their story. And a lot of young Black men have the same question, and it's how can I make it? Like. And that's a hard dialogue piece, right? And a very honest conversation. We even joke, and I'm like, look, I was like, look, weed is legal now. Just incorporate and get a license. There's, and I know that sounds funny, but
it's real.
It's real, and you have to have these conversations. But if you allow yourself to get lost in the sauce and you're like, well, I got mine, get yours, right? I think that's a detriment. So something that I do heavily on is just really connecting with the base. I think my work, it might not be like Rainbow Push, right? It might not be as visible or as politically significant, but any type of anything, whether it was the summertime and all the protests we were a part of, whether it's, partnering Lasiah Wade, who is over, I think, the Chicago chapter of DLM, creator of Brave Space Alliance, having that dialogue piece with her. I think when you allow yourself to be challenged, you allow yourself to contribute, and you allow yourself to find your own niche. And I know my niche is really to mentor these, young men. So that's something that I think I really do well. It's something I'm proud about as far as my work in the Black community. And if, I pray that I'm allowed to just continue to just help and to be of help. COVID makes things a little bit difficult because you can't obviously come in contact. So, we have mediums like this and whatnot. But something that I do, I don't tell people what thing I do not do. And I always say this is the Christian mistake. I never tell anybody I'm praying for you without addressing the need. And what I mean by that, if somebody tells me, I'm struggling here, I need money, and obviously I'm not going to empty out my savings account, or whatever, I'm going to send them books. I'll go on my Amazon.com. I'm going to send them resources that is going to help navigate them. One of the books I recommend for anybody, and it's an old book, was written like in the 1600s, but it's by Emmer Vattel. It's called The Law of Nations. If you want to look at how to build an entity going forward. But, you know, I'm always thinking about how I can contribute and how is it going to make the most meaningful impact. And when you do that, you know, I don't, you know, it serves, it's self-serving. So that's something that I really pride myself on, is being that servant toward all. So I just, at the end of the day, I just want to be a help. I'm not looking to get famous, but I do want to help somebody. So.
Yes. Yeah. That is everything. And that mentorship is much needed, I'm sure. Unfortunately, a lot of us know a lot of people that are locked up. I have a very, very dear friend of mine who's been locked up our entire adulthood. So 10 plus years. And he's been, it's even longer than that. I think it's literally since we were 18 years old. So yeah. And it's really sad to see what they go through, and they need that influence. And you're right. Like when I talk to him, that's all he's talking about. It's like, when I get out, how I'm going to make it, like, how am I going to be legit? How am I going to be able to have a business? And he talks about stuff he wants to do. And, you know, and I try to be positive and uplifting, but yeah, that influence is much needed. And it's guys that are out here, young Black men in corporate, young Black men who are trying to get in corporate, young Black men, you know, blue collar jobs. And they're just like, how can I make it? I don't know how I can figure this out. So yeah, we need more Black male mentors. If you are listening to this and you are not a mentor, you should consider it. If you need a mentor, you should find one.
Hit me up. You need a mentor. I would love to have a conversation with you. I'm not, you know, not gonna put your business out there. I'm real. I'm from Chicago, and all that comes with it. You know, I've had a best friend that's been killed by gang violence. There's nothing you can shock me with. You know what I'm saying? Golly, like I still, that was my homie, man. But like, I know what it's like. I know what it's like out here. I know the temptations out here. I know you feel like you're alone and nobody's listening. There's things I wish I could have done better. Even when I think about, you know, my best friend I grew up with, you know, and this is why I'm so, I think, different now. When I got to like 18 and I got into the school, you know, I went to, and, you know, he was kind of lost out there in the streets. It wasn't like I was trying to stay away. It's just like, you try to take care of my, you know, your life. It's like, well, I'm at this, you know, point in my life, you know, but people out there are hurting. And when you leave people neglected, you know, stuff like that crap, you know, that crap happens. So now I see how detrimental it is, you know, when somebody's not heard, when people feel alone. And, you know, hit me up. You can hit me up on IG. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. You can hit me up however you find me, man. I won't say no. So yeah.
Y'all take him up on that offer, for real. Take the up. Not only is he a successful Black man, finance. We need that. Need that help. All right. So any final advice? Just like the final advice for anybody who's like needing any type of guidance as far as starting a business or the financial side of being a corporate professional, anything.
Final advice: nobody but God has all the answers. Don't feel like you're in this by yourself, because everybody is feeling what you're feeling to some degree. And a lot of people have gone through what you're going through. It's okay to ask for help, and don't limit who can help you. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wish, you know, those and you know, even when it comes to family, you know, you want to believe that people that you grew up with, that you share common things with, they're going to be the first ones to come to your aid. As you get older, you find that that's not the case for a lot of different reasons. You have to put yourself out there, be willing to fail, be willing to just take risks, don't feel embarrassed, and don't apologize. It's not about being perfect. I always say, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. You know, it's just about doing it. And I always equate it to fitness. Like, you know, I get haters on my page and like, I don't like that form, or you didn't go down all the way. But the reality is, I'm in the gym more than you. The reality is, I have more views than you. Right? The reality is, my body looks better than you. You know, and it's not because I'm doing everything perfect. It's because I showed up. You know, you can critique anybody, but if you're not even in the game, you're out the conversation. So
how you gonna hate from outside the gym?
Right.
You
And you got plenty of them. Like, you're not even in the conversation. So, just get out there, stumble, fall, crawl, cry, go through the human experience, but do it at the end of the day. And that's what you're going to be remembered by. And then network like crazy. Reach out to amazing professionals like Jazz. Reach out to me. Reach out to anybody. You'd be surprised who will be willing to listen to you and who will be willing to help.
Yes, I feel that. Definitely reach out. I'm always open. Here, y'all know y'all can hit me up, Jazz at blackxecutive.com, feedback at blackxecutive.com. And Cody, where can people reach you if they want to keep pace with your journey?
Look, IG at CVMK33 is on the screen already. I appreciate that. Also, look, podcast Mondays, 6:30 p.m., YouTube, CV Space K, or you can just go to my Facebook page at Vernon Kelly. You can hit me up on LinkedIn at Cody Kelly MBA. I mean, there's so many ways you connect with me, but the simplest way is to just try. If you just put in Cody Kelly and a black guy pops up, that's probably me. Not a lot of us out there about this name. So look for the bald head and, we'll connect. So I appreciate that.
Yes, make sure y'all connect and reach out.
Thanks for watching Blackxecutive. Join the conversation in the comments below and be sure to like and subscribe. You can find a full list of all available podcast episodes on blackxecutive.com or wherever you stream. Until next time, keep aspiring to inspire.